Hey guys, this will be video 11 for the how to design build a 59 Korina Les Paul replica. And it's going to be a very short video because I'm getting really low on my phone storage because this will be the third video I've done today and I'm waiting on one to upload right now. So let me dive right in and not waste any time. I'm not going to do any work at all in this video, but I'll just spend some time talking about um, the little things that I do to make my job work out. That's the little heel cap that I was talking about. You have to manufacture something, you have to machine something that you can put up in there so that it will allow the bearing somewhere to go. Because if you didn't have that continuation, the bearing would most likely you'd round off the corner. But there's something really interesting that goes on that I honestly can't explain. But I know that if you pre-machine the profile of this neck exactly to that profile right there, and then you try to do that route work, you'll lose every bit of the corner of the heel. And I can't really explain it other than I've gotten to the point now to where I just make I rough everything out about 3/16 of an inch taller than it needs to be, and then I machine it. Uh, I go ahead and get really, really close to the finished heel profile right here, but I'm usually about a 16th of an inch deeper from this point to that point. And I'm gonna have to kick it into high gear because odds are I probably don't have as much time as I'd like to get to talk about some of this stuff. So just keep in mind that and you can see how strong that tape is. It was really difficult to get off, but you've got to have something in place to allow your router bit to ride along something. All right, so let's talk about operations. Um, I've got a jig that is, I don't really want to show it because it makes it look a lot easier than it really is, because I do every bit of this freehand and I'm running this on a router speed control. I think I'm down to like 17,000 RPMs, but I don't want to show anybody how to do that because the first time I did that, I had already been building necks for probably 7 years before I ever even attempted that. Every bit of my neck building was done with rasps and you name it. Once I started building my necks with a router, I was terrified, and man, I really screwed up some jobs as well. But for the most part, if you're really good with a router, you know that as long as you have a platform, the router base can run along that platform. Uh, but my platform is designed, it's a two-tier platform. My router actually runs about 3/4 of an inch higher, which is even more dangerous because the bit is hanging out really far out of the bottom of the base. So that's why I don't want to show it. So you could build a jig that allowed you to just machine flush like this, but what would happen is the router base, once you got up here, the router base would start hitting, and you'd have to stop back here, and you're doing an enormous amount of handwork to get to blend all that in. I don't like that. And then also, to make matters worse or more complex, there's something going on where you can't just machine it flush. It's probably based on the fact that you're running a 1 inch radius, but the width of that material is only, we'll say 1 3/4. So we're already the bearing on this. Once you cut one side, you're fine. But once you move to the other side, now your bearing is just right at the threshold of beginning to ride on the lower part of the radius. So when you're making your second pass, everything has to be readjusted and you run everything at a more shallow finished depth. So That's all I'm going to say about that. If you want to learn how to build a neck with a big old monster bit like that, your first 3 to 5 necks, make sure you build them out of poplar and throw them away or turn them into clocks, because you're going to have to get a feel for the jig, for the tool, everything. Don't even attempt that if you've never used a router before. And I've been using routers for about probably close to 40 years now. So anyway, maybe that's the reason they invented the CNC. So there it is. Uh, Next thing would be it did work out extremely well. And if you see the pencil marks that are going across right there, you make certain that you have pencil marks on the whole neck. And you can see the pencil marks that are left right there. Let's see, how was it? It was overhead like that. So you can see where I machined right up to the point where I took it right up to the very edge. You can't see it now, but there's just a very faint little tick marks of the pencil continuation where I did, I didn't machine, I didn't lose the neck. But this one, in other words, there's a very small flat right there, not much. Okay, so anyway, and I was able to machine very close to the finished guitar. I mean, I'm really close, only because I've built a bunch of these and I know my limitations on the tool and all that jazz, and the jig. Everything from here on out, it'll be getting the ears glued on. This will all be getting uh, hand cut like this. I'll shape every bit of this in like that with just a hand chisel, and then we'll be finishing it off with a file. Like this right here. I'll show it on this one, even though it's very close to finished. But basically, you're just carving all that mass off, and you're following a very defined arc right there. And I used to think that this concaved right here. It does not. It convexes here, and that convex carries all the way out and then just continues to convex, but the convex begins to turn compound, and then it flattens out. Okay, so all that's just by feel and handwork, and I've said it numerous times that, to me personally, that is the pinnacle and the most rewarding part of getting to build a guitar. I love blending that in because it really shows my ability as a woodworker that I really know what I'm doing, and not only that, but it's very functional. Feels great. Okay, let me check the time. 8 minutes out of 16. Probably got about, because I got a little timer on my phone that lets me know that, when it's going to cut me off, in other words. And that's what happened in the last video as well, because I was trying to do videos back to back. So at this point, I got that machine work done. I got the heel. Not going to start talking about hypotheticals at all, but there's various tools out there that will allow you to do this job. Let me see if I can get this to pick up on the camera. It ought to be, I hope it's not obvious, but it may be obvious on the camera that this neck, this is a block down here. Wherever you see that line right there defines the thickest part of the lower. So I did a block right there, but that block literally came from the 58 Explorer that I built. This neck came from that remnant location. Just imagine that was the 58 Explorer, and there was just barely a little bit of board left at the bottom. See, that's a scarf joint, but that's the material that was left at the bottom. And then in order to create a tenon, I had to take the tenon from back here, from the other board. I'm not going to start talking about that, but where I'm going with this is I basically took the tree the annular ring, that annular ring right there is identical to the one above it. It's just that it was back here. So I transitioned that little cap, brought it all the way up here, and was literally splitting hairs to try to get it to work. But I want to see what it looks like on the camera. but in person it looks really good. I missed this one by about a 32nd of an inch. See that line right there? And then it jumps over right there. And then this jumps over a little bit there. But then once you get to the middle, this is beautiful right there. That blends really well. That one's missed a little bit. That's a nice alignment right there. And right here, you may not be seeing what I'm seeing, but let me see if I can get it straight on. It's really hard. It's going to be impossible for me to make it where you can see what I'm talking about, but just know that the annular, it's quarter sawn. Sorry. The fact that this is quarter sawn, this is quarter sawn, makes it incredibly easy to marry those growth rings up with the ones below them, the annular rings up with the one below them. Uh, it's never going to be perfect because you're doing radius work, and not only are you doing radius work, but it's compound. But what I'm extremely, extremely happy with, I hope this shows, this being the player's side, when I look down at the heel, I can't hardly see it, and this whole line right here just looks incredible. So I think it's one of those things I'll be able to come in with some darker nitro, do a little bit of trickery, and it should be fine. I had to be extremely careful down here because the bottom end grain will soak up much more stain and probably get darker, much, much darker. So there's going to be a lot of trickery that goes on right here. This will probably get sealed clear and then taped off, and then I'll kind of do my darker spray up here, and then try to blend it all together. And when in doubt, buff it down to a matte finish, and not try to reveal everything. In other words, if it's a real dull finish, it won't show that. Okay, turned out really good. I probably won't really. There's really not a whole lot left to talk about since there's not much time. Yeah, I'm getting fairly close. I will say this: I am incredibly torn whether to go with the Gabon Ebony or to go with the Rosewood. So I'm just going to make it real easy and say I'm not there yet, because odds are I'm thinking that this is very likely going to become my personal guitar, one of my favorite personal guitars. So it's my call. And when I mentioned, what's your final call? Well, unfortunately, I thought I had the final call elected, or defined yesterday with the Bolivian, but I'll cross that bridge later on. So, what else should I talk about? The ears. Honestly, out of building that other guitar, sorry about that. That was probably loud as hell. Out of building that other 58 Explorer and barely getting the body out of it, having to build up the neck. And that's the reason this neck is a multi-piece neck, is because I didn't even know I was going to have enough material to build a neck. But these pieces on the board, on the table, are the only pieces left over that are they were within the location of the board up here that could be used for ears. Okay, but that's a substantial amount of material to be used as an ear, and then it would just be a matter of matching the grain. And I've got enough material to build a custom headstock, a really big headstock. So, because I know I'm still not 100% certain that I want to go with the little 50s narrow. So probably what I'm going to do, just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and build it up with the big headstock ears. That way I can breathe a sigh of relief that I haven't boxed myself into any corners yet. Okay? Because we change our minds. And this baby feels incredible. Again, not bragging. It's exciting when you've built enough of them that you really know what you love or hate about each guitar that you've built. And then when you get up to this point here, you're getting really close to defining the guitar that you kind of always wanted. And I think it's pretty rare. This is the first time I've done this. I don't think it's machined completely. Oh, there's a bunch of tape on the bottom there. It's pretty close though. So I think by the time it's built and everything goes together, it's going to be a really beautiful guitar. It's not perfect, but the cool thing about it is, you know, neither is most European supermodels. But whatever the cost, it's worth the effort. So I appreciate you guys dropping in. The video, I'm surprised it hasn't cut me off yet, but I will end the video there. And might be a day or two before I do another video because I want to kind of bond with it.